I'm playing Quest 64. Quest 64 is one of the few N64 games that people were excited about that wasn't from Nintendo, and they had every reason to be excited for it. It's going to be the first RPG for the console. I was excited for it. I've been a huge RPG player ever since the NES, and I didn't get a PlayStation until much later. I realized I was late for that train. And yeah, every advertisement for Quest got me suckered into wanting to play it. And if you ask anyone about Quest 64 today, everyone says that this game sucks. I'm the same way. I think it sucks. But why? What was it about Quest 64 that sucked so bad? It took me 20 minutes of playing to remember. You play as Brian, a young magician's apprentice. Wait, hold up. What the hell is going on with that hair? Everything else about him is fine, but that single strand of his bangs defying all laws of gravity. You could tie him to the end of a rope and use him to catch fish. You are told from the get-go that the world hangs in the balance of ruin because the Elatail book has gone missing. This book has the power to unbalance the world, I guess. And the only way to seal away the book permanently is to obtain 4 magic gems representing the 4 elements. Gee, in epic RPG we have to collect 4 treasures of the elements. I've never heard that one before. Brian's dad left sometime earlier and has gone missing ever since. So Brian sets out to find him. This is the closest semblance of plot that we're going to get. Dad's missing, go get him. Leaving the castle brings you right into the first town, and within these first few minutes, one of the game's many issues stand out. First off, the camera. There is no real way to control it. The camera tries its hard to follow you around, and the only way to control it is with the B button. The B button swings it around to your back. This isn't too bad in fields, but in town with a bunch of buildings or closed corridors, it becomes impossible to manage. You can get turned around way too easily and completely mess with your sense of direction. Speaking of sense of direction, you won't be given much either. The only indication on where to go next is by leaving the castle city, checking the map, and heading for the nearest town, Dondoran. I will say that this is one of Quest 64's better features. The field maps are expansive with an impressive amount of draw distance. Impressive for the N64 anyway. It isn't long before the first random battle happens, and now you can truly test your evocative powers against the most fearsome of foes, the most monstrous of monsters. Conjure the elements and prepare to vanquish a were-hare. At least they're not rats? Battling sucks. Every fight is just super boring. It boils down to each side taking turns slapping each other until somebody wins. And you'll be getting into battles constantly. The encounter rate is atrociously high, often making that another battle occurs after taking a few steps from where you were. Towards the end of the game, I started running from battles because I got so bored with them. Quest 64 actually does have a decent idea for a battle system. The apprentice Brian can manipulate the 4 elements, earth, fire, wind, and water. Each one of these elements is mapped to the 4 C buttons, and you use that to choose your spells to cast. It works really well, and you'll quickly learn the button order to cast your favorite spells. As you use spells in battle, you gain a percentage number, and after hitting 100%, you can increase the level of one of those elements. Or finding spirits on the field map instantly increases an element of your choice. Seeing what new spells you get is easily the biggest driving force to continue playing the game. You want to see what kind of destructive force you can accumulate. Unfortunately, this is also the most disappointing aspect of the game, because the spells are just lame. For example, the earth element lets you throw a rock, or a bigger rock, or an even bigger rock, or a rolling rock, or a bigger rolling rock, or a bunch of rocks. Rocks! The worst part is that the later spells aren't actually more effective. Sure, the larger rocks have a larger hit radius, but it does just as much damage as the smallest rock for 3 times the magic point cost. There's also no targeting indicator of any kind, so you have no idea if your spells are even going to reach your target. For example, the rolling rock rolls directly in front of you, and it requires extremely precise facing to have it go in the direction you want. And more often than not, you'll just miss. It gives unnecessary frustration that could be easily fixed. At least there's variety in the different elements. Well, that's the next issue. The highest level you can get any element to is 50. However, even if you get all of the hidden spirits and grind as much magic experience as you can, it is impossible to get every element to 50. It's difficult to get 3 of them to 50. So what you end up doing is picking 2 elements and leveling the crap out of them. And you don't know this yet, but the 2 elements you're going to use are pretty much already chosen for you. First, you have to have the water element. Why? Because it's the only one that gives you a healing spell. A healing spell that sucks, by the way. Not having the healing spell makes the game astronomically harder, as you have to rely solely on items to keep your health up. And you're going to want to get the second level healing spell too, simply because it's more efficient. By then, you'll have 25 points into your water element. So now you might as well make it one of your main elements and continue to level it up, which means you'll get great spells like a water pillar, or a bigger water pillar, or an even bigger water pillar. Are you seeing the pattern here now? The other element that you're going to use is Earth, for 2 reasons. The most damaging spell in the game is Avalanche. It causes a bunch of rocks to fall for about 50% more damage than the really big rock spell, and it has a chance to hit an enemy multiple times, especially if they're large. The downside to this spell is that it's completely random where the rocks fall. There will be times where you don't hit anything. The other spell from Earth that you want is the spell Magic Barrier. See, everything you fight, ranging from dragons to slimes to demon rabbits, everything attacks using magic. Everything. And all of their spells are direct copies of spells that you can get from leveling up your magic. Everyone uses magic. The Magic Barrier spell makes you immune to magic. All of it. This is the spell that makes you win the game. Seriously, any boss or remotely threatening enemy becomes a complete joke when you can't even be touched. The only annoyance is that you need to renew the barrier every 3 turns, but that's a small concession for invulnerability. By the time you get this spell, every single battle plays out the same. You put on a magic barrier, and then you drop rocks on their head. Rinse and repeat until you win. So you make it to the city of Dondarin. The king there will say that their earth magic orb was stolen by a terrible bandit. They used the orb's power to run their city, allowing them to craft pottery, plow the land, and the like. Without the earth orb, their city is doomed. Not a bad motivator, for what it's worth. Also, when you get to the end of any town, you'll meet this woman, Shannon. She happens to be traveling on the same journey as you, ending up in the exact same town you are in. She's never actually helpful in any capacity, but she's the only reoccurring character. Anyway, into the forest, find the bandit. This guy has stolen the Earth Jewel because he wants to rule the land and show humans what true power is. Even though he's clearly just a human in a wolf's hat. And when I fight him, I get my ass kicked. That's fine, I figure I just need to do some grinding. And this is where Quest 64's biggest problem lies. You see, there is no traditional leveling up. Each of your stats, hit points, magic points, defense, agility, and magic level, increase from your different actions. But there is no even way to increase these stats, as all of their actions work against themselves. For example, to increase your hit points, you hit enemies with your stick. But if you do that, you're not casting spells, which means you're not increasing your magic points or magic spirit levels. But if you keep casting magic, then you're not hitting stuff with your stick, which means your hit points aren't increasing, leaving you vulnerable during the early game boss battles. The only way to increase your defense is to let enemies beat the shit out of you, but then you're not casting spells or hitting them with your stick. It makes your whole character lopsided, and to get the stats the game expects you to have, fundamentally doubles your time spent grinding. And battles are so lame and boring that you just don't want to spend hours doing that. Plus, it takes forever for any of the stats to actually increase. You have to cast a lot of spells, hit a lot of things with your stick, and get pounded on a lot for a single point increase. And even when you do increase that stat, the effect is so negligible that you don't feel any stronger. Even with the best spells, I felt just as feeble at the end of the game as I did in the beginning. The agility stat is the easiest one to increase, because you do that by running. Not running away from battles, just running around. So if you find yourself a big open field, like say the one in Dondarin, you can just rubber band your analog stick off to the side and then leave your game on overnight. Come back the next day and you'll find that your agility stat has increased by— What? That's it? See what I mean that grinding is unbearably slow? Well, at least it was enough to kill the bandit. When you bring the Earth Jewel back to Dondarin, the king says that it must be important for your quest, and that you should take it with you. Wait, what? This is the same thing that the king said he needed for his city to even stay alive. You know, the thing that creates your primary export to keep the economy stable and keep your citizens well fed? And now he's like, Earth Orb? You know what? You keep it. Again, zero direction is given on where you're supposed to go next. I figured I'd go to the dock because it's the only place I haven't been to yet. And sure enough, the ship captain is kind enough to give you a free passage to an all-new land. Everything is free in this game, by the way. Staying at the inn, ship rides, items, everyone just passes them out for free. It's hard to feel like you've accomplished anything when everything is just given to you, like a participation award for Little League softball. Which I still keep on my shelf. From here on out, you go to a new town and everything plays out the same. You go to Normoon, Darwin thing is missing! Kill the dude, you can keep it. Go to Larapool, our water thing is missing! Kill the dude, you can keep it. Go to Lineland, our fire thing is missing! You kill the dude, you can keep it. I really wish I could make fun of the plot, but honestly, there isn't any to make fun of. Why am I playing this game? Getting all of these jewels has you ending up at the castle of Brannock. I don't know why you end up there, you just do. At the top of the castle, there's a meaningless boss fight, and in the next room you find Shannon and some guy. Turns out that some guy on the floor is Brian's father, the one person you spent the entire game looking for, but ended up getting all of these jewels to use on the Elletale book. He was defeated by Shannon, who is actually evil, I guess, and she says to move on to the next room, where you have another meaningless boss fight. After that room, you find Shannon again, and she reveals that she is actually a soulless puppet created by some evil being named Mammon, and it is he who wants the Elletale book to rule the world, or whatever. And then Shannon gives you the Elletale book, which, doesn't that mean I win? I've got the book, I've got all the jewels. Thanks, you dumb lady. That's not the end of the game though, because you have to go to Mammon's world and fight him, because god damn it, we wanted one more boss fight. Mammon's world sucks too. It's just a bunch of trippy scenery while you constantly run through doors. And in here, you eventually find Shannon again. She explains how she's just a puppet tied to Mammon, and she was created by Mammon to lead Brian to him for whatever reason. She also says that she doesn't understand how humans are so strong with their emotions and perseverance and basically a bunch of crap pulled out of her ass to try to give the game's story meaning. Or purpose. At least Mammon himself is kind of cool looking. You know, compared to those werehairs. Mammon says that Brian is the only one that can free him from his imprisonment, which makes me wonder why Brian even came here in the first place, and then you fight. And by fight, I mean you put up a magic barrier, and then you drop rocks on his head. After killing him, you find Shannon, again, who is confused as to why she's still around. She says she wants to become more than a puppet, so she will live among the people to try to learn and become more like a human being. Then there's a really short epilogue about how Mammon was an evil guy because he was evil, and Brian is great, and then the credits. What, the credits? That's it? Not even an attempt at a reunion between Brian and his father? You know, the whole reason this quest ever happened? This ending is so lame that's not even half-assed. It's no-assed. 0 asses were put into this ending. That's all there is. It's so shallow, it leaves you feeling unfulfilled and empty. That's why my final rating for this game is a Shannon out of 10. It's completely soulless. Quest 64 has no heart or emotion put into it. Sure, it looks like an RPG and it goes through all the motions, but it's a frail copycat of what RPGs should be. The combat is immensely boring, the spell system doesn't add in any creativity or excitement, and the leveling system works against itself, causing additional hours of mind-numbing grinds. The story is non-existent until the few pathetic attempts at the last hour of the game. Quest 64 was a petty attempt to get a role-playing game to cash in on the starved N64 audience. I bought this game when it came out, and back in 1998, cartridge games were expensive. It cost me like $80 to buy this. Do you know how much it's worth now? $3.